Good morning, Aces. Good morning, everyone. This is Teacher A for another review. But for today, we'll not be dealing with any English lessons or ESL companies or campus journalism topic, but we'll be only providing some references, some insights for our teachers, particularly teachers from Department of Educations, wherein they are doing their learning delivery modalities to course for teacher. Now, we have here an overview of the learning delivery modalities LDM2 course for teacher. It is derived or came from the development of the National Educators Academy of the Philippines, NEAP. I know that you are familiar with this one because our school heads, our OIC, TICs, and our head teachers usually partake in the trainings and seminars conducted by NEAP in order to improve themselves in administrative tasks. Now, LDM2 course for teacher is subdivided into 5 modules, and each module has something to do with different lesson or different parts that they need to tackle. Now, for LDM2 module 1, the description would be course orientation. The module content would be course overview, organizing your learning action cell or the LAC. This is very important for the content of module 1. The duration would be 4 hours. Now, our references for this would be DepEd Order number 35 series 2016 on the LAC. Then based on our deductions, we have here study notebook consisting of the reflections and notes written in an intelligible ways. Although if you have browsed the LDM2 course for teacher, module 1 do not require any output, but reflections or your insights gained from the module 1 should be written in your study notebook. That will be somehow our reference of what we gained in the module 1. It can be electronic or printed, but usually during this new normal teaching, our school, our ICT experts drafted or crafted this Google Drive so that we can input our reflections directly to the online system that they crafted, so that we are also monitored if we are doing our tasks. Now, can be shared for future references. That's correct. If you are having difficulties in the near future, if you want to reflect on your solutions that you made or you crafted before, you can read your study notebook again. Now, it enabling teachers and school leaders to use these learning delivery modalities. Implementation and management of alternative learning delivery modalities. That will be for school heads, the implementation and management. And for teachers, we are just focusing on the instructional implications of using these alternative LDMs. Now, content of course portfolio will be also somehow tackled in the orientation. Now, the expected outputs would be there are activities in the crafted study notebook. If you have your Google Drive, if you have your own self-made study notebook, you can do the activities. That can be a great help for you in the near future. Questions are also indicated in each module. Okay. Now, for LDM2, the description would be the most essential learning competencies. The module content would be the background, rationale, and development of MELCs, unpacking and combining MELCs into learning objectives. Now, the duration for this would be 3 hours. The references are DepEd Order number 12, series 2020 on the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan. And of course, you need to download the sample MELCs created by our curriculum experts in the division or in the Department of Education. Now, LDM2 will be focusing most likely on how we combine and unpack the essential learning competencies. Now, the deduction for this would be alignment on the content and performance standards, prerequisite knowledge and skills, logical sequence of learning objectives. Even in the pre-COVID years, teachers are mandated to prioritize the needed learning competencies. During this new normal teaching, We just need to heighten it. Considering the following criteria: commonality of the content, topic, or theme, alignment with the content and performance standard. The expected output for the LDM2 would be: there are activities in the crafted study notebook. Please do reflect on the activities in the LDM2 and you need to answer them as your reflection. Individual lot group presentation on unpacking of a sample milk. On your learning action cell, you need to present a sample unpacked learning competencies based on the milk so that you can prove that you learned something about that module. Now, for Module 3, it is subdivided into Module 3A and Module 3B. For Module 3A, the description would be designing instruction in the different learning delivery modalities. The module content would be understanding the different LDMs, designing lessons and assessment in the different LDMs, guiding and monitoring learners in the different LDMs. This would be consisting of 18 to 24 hours because on this part, actually, you will be designing the lesson and assessment. You will be analyzing, reassessing the alternative learning delivery of education and instruction for the new normal teaching. That's why the Department of Education allotted a huge number of hours for this module. Now, for Module 3.1A, the topic would be understanding the different LDM, wherein we have the distance learning, under the modular distance learning, online distance learning, the TV and radio instructed or aided instruction, the blended learning, the non-negotiable minimum requirements for distance learning modalities, wherein you can find out the time allotted for online distance learning and the necessary LDM that can be applied in every key stages of education. Now, for Module 3.2A, designing lessons and assessments in the different LDM. The overview for this one would be designing lessons in distance learning, particularly on what distance learning that you opted to do, if it is modular, a blended one, or an online. It's up to you. And we need also to reconsider the components of DLL and DLP that we are familiar with. We have the objectives, the content, the learning materials and resources, the procedure, the remarks, and the reflection. Now, the key components for this would be gathering lesson objectives from MELCs. We will now identifying, not using the old curriculum guide, but we'll be focusing for this new normal teaching on the MELCs. And choosing learning resources and learning tasks. It can be downloaded in DepEd Commons, LRMDS, and you can also use non-DepEd resources, but make sure you align it. It should be parallel to the target of the MELCs. Now, we have also the assessing learning. That's very important. And integrating content across learning areas or the team teaching. The references for this would be the DepEd Order number 47, Series 2016 on the Policy Guidelines on Daily Lesson Preparation, DepEd Order number 8, Series of 2015 on the Policy Guidelines on Classroom Assessment. Now, for Module 3.3A, the topic would be guiding and monitoring learners in different LDMs. We have the overview, drafting of weekly home learning plan and individual learning plan. The references would be Appendix D of DepEd DMCI 2020-00162, wherein there's a sample component on what we should see or what are the essential qualities of drafting the weekly home learning plan and individual learning monitoring plan. Now, for the expected outputs for this Module 3A, okay? There are activities in the crafted study notebook. Of course, you need to reflect on the responses on the questions provided by the Module 3. List of targeted learner interventions, learning tasks for DL, assessment methods in DL, weekly home learning plan for one subject, individual learning monitoring plan for a student who lags behind in completing the learning task, and Lag 3 teacher engagement report. This will be only optional, and of course the Session report can be also optional if the last session was conducted. Now, for the Ldm2 Module 3B, the description would be learning resources, where we can get our additional activities, our additional tasks that can be incorporated in our DLL or DLP. Now, the module content would be learning resource maps for distance learning, accessing learning resources from DepEd portals, and accessing the LR materials. This would be 4 hours in duration. Now, the overview for the module 3.1b, or the learning resource maps for distance learning. These are the suggested strategies in implementing the LDMs. You can choose among those strategies that best suit your students for the new normal. Now, for the module 3.2b, the topic would be accessing learning resources from DepEd portals like LRMDS portal, DepEd Commons, and another resources that we can get and references that we can use. Now, memorandum on DepEd Commons, we should read that, teachers. Okay. Module 3.3b, assessing the LR materials. Of course, if we have already the learning resources, the materials, the worksheets, we need to assess them. We need to identify if it is suitable to our drafted DLP or DLL. Now, we can use the LR Rapid Assessment Tool, comparing DepEd and non-DepEd LR in LR Rapid Assessment Tool. And the expected outputs for this, of course, we still have our activities in our study notebook, and to accomplish LR Rapid Assessment Tool with reflections. Now, for the Ldm2 Module 4, the description would be planning for continuing professional development and LAT planning. Now, we are all familiar with the CPD nowadays, upon that we renew our license. The module content would be reflecting on professional life and development. Pandemic time would be the best time for us to reflect if we are effective and what we need to do in order to be effective and to polish our craftsmanship. Now, for the lesson 2, the planning for the continuing professional development and participation in the lab. The duration would be 2 hours. Our references for module 4 are the DepEd memo number 50 series 2020 on DepEd professional development priorities, and some other references pertaining to CPT. The deductions would be professional self-assessment questionnaire. You can answer that easily. And the individual development plan is very important, teachers. You should assess yourself, your strengths and weaknesses, the intervention, the resources that you need in order to augment your skill and to address the gap that you identify within yourself. Now, the Ldm2 Module 5, the last module, has a description of building the teaching portfolio related to the implementation of the modalities. The content would be the teaching portfolio and its content, and the evaluation rubric. This would be 4 hours. Actually, it is somehow synonymous to our PPST IPCRF, but we will be using now the e-portfolio for the new normal teaching. Now, for the module 5.1, the teaching portfolio and its content, we need to refer to the list of the suggested evidence in the learning delivery modality. Before you complete or you start your portfolio, your e-portfolio, you should know the suggested evidences, the MOVs that you need to file in your folder so that you won't waste any time and effort. You should analyze first the suggested evidences. Now, reading of portfolio will aid teachers to optimize the insights gained in the Ldm2. We'll be having a reflection of what we have learned from the Ldm2 course journey. The 5.2, the evaluation rubric, refer to the evaluation rubric for the LDM implementation portfolio. You need also to identify this. What are the necessary criteria that I need to accomplish, that my portfolio should possess before finalizing my e-portfolio. Now, the expected outputs will be, there are activities in the crafted study notebook. Of course, teachers, I know that answering the LDM2 question seems like answering a Q&A in a Miss Universe or anything, or an essay writing contest, as if we are having our master's degree preliminary exams or midterm in answering this question, but they are always valuable. That's why the Department of Education incorporated them in our learning journey. Now, teaching portfolio, course portfolio, submission would be on December 2020. You have ample of time. That's why on this September, for this month, you should analyze everything prior in making your e-portfolio. There you have it, teacher. That would be the overview of the LDM2 course for teacher. I do hope that you have a very wonderful professional journey and keep on fighting during this new normal teaching. God bless us all.